Hi class. Instead of posting a sample paragraph this time around, I wanted to actually talk through a good example because it will give me a chance to point out some of the common mistakes that I'm seeing as I'm going through the discussion boards. So for today's lesson, for Thursday's lesson, you're writing about the author's credibility. And you're going to use the credentials and the background of the author to analyze whether or not they're justified or effective in their claim because they have credibility. It's like if I suddenly started teaching statistics, I have no credibility to teach statistics. My degree isn't in statistics, I have no knowledge of statistics, and it would become pretty apparent really quickly that I don't know what I'm talking about, and I would lose credibility and you wouldn't believe me. That's the same thing for your author. Does their background, does their authority and their experience and their knowledge and their references give them enough credibility to talk about the issue? So I pulled this student's paragraph from last semester because I think they did a good job of adding analysis. And that's one thing that I'm noticing isn't in a lot of paragraphs. There's a lot of good evidence and a lot of good quotes from the article, but what you're not doing as a writer, not everyone, but many are not doing, is explaining how that piece of evidence or that moment in the article impacts the overall claims. And that's where, I mean, this is a rhetorical analysis essay, so you need to have more than just evidence. You need to use your voice and your opinion, written as academic fact, right? That's what analysis is, explaining how that impacts the argument overall. Let's take a look at this article on White's Homeschooling a Personal Decision, and I'll show you the moments where this writer has added analysis. So it talks here about, it says, White tries to defend her credibility as a journalist and a professional dancer with a clear statement that, and then she quotes the article. One thing too is she's adding parenthetical citations, and this is something you want to start doing because that's what's required in the essay, and it's much easier to have the parenthetical citations now than in the final draft. Parenthetical citations are, with one author, all you need is the page number. You don't even have to put page, just the page number. And then remember, the period goes on the outside of parentheses. So she's done this incorrectly. The period needs to go here. The quotation marks stay there, the period goes here, and just the page number. In our next essay, you'll have multiple authors, so you'll always have to put the author's last name so we know which source on your works cited you're referring to. But for this essay, you'll only have one source. Anyway, so she brings up this quote, and she's adding her judgment, her critical evaluation of what this credibility does. She fails to do that, so she doesn't defend her credibility because the article only focuses on ballet students and their decision to pursue ballet as a career. You can be critical of the author. You can be critical of their arguments. You don't have to write an article or an essay that explains how the article is effective. It can be ineffective. White argues homeschooling can be a way for students to get an academic education and also devote more time to ballet. This is evidence, and then this is analysis, which contradicts her statement. The article title is misleading, believing that the article includes evidence for all homeschool students, right? That's this writer's voice. So this is the student writer critiquing why this author doesn't have credibility. With that said, having a background in journalism, one would expect White to show evidence from other points of view regarding homeschooling for ballet students. More analysis, right? This is the writer explaining the lack of credibility. White clearly stacks her gathered information to in support of homeschooling by interviewing parents and students that believe homeschooling has been a good choice for them. And then she gives an example of one of these interviewers and the time that he spends here, right? And then, look, this part right here is analysis. This weakens her credibility because the statistics do not pertain to her claim. It doesn't break down if the students were successful, if the students were students of ballet, or if they were able to go further their education after being a homeschooled student. So you really want to make sure you're following up that evidence that you provide with analysis under the umbrella of, does this strengthen or weaken the argument? I'm seeing a lot of good jobs or does an excellent job, but that's not what the essay is about. The essay isn't, does the writer do a good job? It's, do they make their argument, and is it effective based on ethos, pathos, and logos? So kind of consider that as you're going forward. I'll try and make comments in the discussion boards, but for the most part, I see a lot of good comments from your peers, and keep working on it. You're doing great. Let me know if you have any questions.